Hello, everyone. Good to see you virtually. Thank you for joining me. I want to take a moment here to thank my biggest fan and cheerleader. It's her birthday today. My mom is 71, so yay! So happy birthday, Marilyn Horton. She, of course, watches each show and tunes in to PBS to watch the Fonson Porter Love of Quilting show. She's not a quilter. She doesn't, well, she's sewn a little bit of like garments, but not a sewing fanatic. She would much rather be outside digging something or pulling something up or planting something. So happy birthday, Mom. I hope you have a great day and enjoy your special day today. So thanks so much for joining us. I would love it if, over in the comments if you would just post where you are watching from, what city you're in. It's always fun to see how far flung our viewers are. So post over there in the comments. And then I have a question for you. I'm interested. Are you paper piecing? Yes or no? So just in the comments, yes or no. Trying to kind of figure out if people, in my head, paper piecing is one of those things like you love it or you hate it and you have a super strong opinion about it. So I want to know, what do you think? Paper piecing, yes or no? We've had a couple of projects come through here lately that are pretty intensive paper piecing projects. And, you know, I kind of have to be in the mood for it, I guess, because it's slower, but man, the results are pretty spectacular. So yes or no, and then let me know where you're watching from, what city or state you're in, because that's always fun as well. So we've got people coming in, Olivia and Jesse. Yeah? Awesome. All right, so we have a lot of great things planned for you for this edition of the Quilted Joy Clubhouse meeting. But I do want to make sure that you are on our newsletter list, because in our newsletter list, you are going to get some downloadables, some things that will help you kind of stretch what we talk about today, and some things you can print out and doodle and follow along, and I think they'll be helpful to you. So make sure you're on our newsletter list. We also post information about events we have coming up, or maybe some specials that we have coming up, just things and some cool links that we have coming up. In fact, I saw one today I want to have included, Kelsey, in the next newsletter. It was all about a place in New York that makes flowers from fabric, and it's like one of the oldest companies in the country that makes their flowers from fabric. So pretty cool little video that I want to put in the next newsletter. So be sure you sign up. And then today was the announcement in our newsletter that we have a new limited edition Glide Thread pack. And this one is the Woodland Fairy Glide Thread pack. And it has, I love the names of these threads. So the three colors of Glide in the pack are Split Pea, Frog, and Tawny. Isn't that great? And so those three, you can get the thread pack for this month, for August. You can choose it in the king cone size or the mini cone size. But we've given you a pretty decent little special price there for those three. And so pick those up. I think you'll find a lot of uses for those three. Who would know that frog, a color called frog, would actually have a lot of great uses in the quilt world? But it really does. It's a great color. So pick one up while we have it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about clamshells. So we've been talking about the year of the grid. We've been talking about all the different designs that you can put on a grid. And of course, a clamshell is a super traditional that you would find for years and years and years, even in the hand quilting world as well. So we're going to pull it over into the machine quilting world. Now, I'm using my big, beautiful Millennium 26-inch throat, but you could do this on a sit-down machine as well. You would want to, we're going to be using a ruler for this, because part of the clamshell appeal is that very symmetrical arch. And so if you try to do that by hand, it's really hard to get those the symmetry involved. So you will need a ruler for this. But let's first, just in case you're not sure about clamshells, I just want to show you clamshells here. And so I've got this checkerboard pieced block here. And so 2, 4, 6, yeah, so it's an 8-inch by 8-inch finished block with 2-inch squares. And so Kelsey, are you able to see? I don't want to screw you up. Is it okay there? Yeah. Okay. So we've got our arch that's going over, so it spans, you know, 2 of these blocks. So it's a 4-inch arch. So that gives you a clue as to what size ruler we're going to use, right? So a 4-inch arch, a full arc. The next one, maybe I'll move this back, Kelsey, so I'm not so close here to this front bar. And then the next one is also a full arc. And then we sneak up the ditch. That's our little magic superhighway until we can get to the next row. And for the next row, we're going to do a half, a whole, and a half. Now we don't need to sneak up the superhighway. It's ready to go to do a whole, sneak up our little superhighway, half, whole, half. So they are staggered. Does that come through on camera okay, Kelsey? So they're staggered, and that gives you these clamshell designs. So that's the basic clamshell. So let's stitch this out. This is one of those, well, like I said, that you're going to need a ruler. So let me get this out of the way, and I'm going to show you how I've marked it, and I'm going to show you the ruler that I've used. So as far as how to mark it, I've just chalked this out. So again, it's an 8 by 8, so a 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's a 16 patch made up of 2-inch squares. So I have 4 rows of 4 blocks in my 8 by 8 square. And in order to do the clamshell, I need a nice circle ruler. And so this is one of my favorites. This is made by one of my quilting heroes, Lisa Caillet. And it's a Quilter's Groove Pro Circle 4. And we do have these online if you're looking for a good circle ruler. What I would recommend when you're looking at circle rulers, first of all, make sure they're etched. So you want to be sure that if you drag your fingernail on the back side of them, it catches in the carvings. That will tell you if it's a good ruler. If it's just printed, you won't be able to catch your fingernail on there. And then you want to make sure it has north, south, east, west. But I also like to have these diagonals too, because all of those lines will help me align this ruler. So this ruler is going to give me a 4-inch circle, and it's compensated already for the 1/4 inch that my ruler foot adds, because from the side of my ruler foot to the needle is going to add a 1/4 inch. So technically this piece of acrylic is 3.5 inches, because the hopping foot along with my ruler foot will give me a 1/4 inch on each side, and that will add that 1/2 inch. So I will get a 4-inch circle from this piece of acrylic, which is why it's called the 4-inch Pro Circle. So I'm going to align my north-south on this bottom edge, and I'm going to align, oh sorry, that's east-west. I'm going to align east-west on this bottom edge of my chalked out 8-inch block, and I'm going to align my north-south right on that, what would be the seam line of these 2 squares. And I just moved the handle, Kelsey, did that? Actually, yeah, that looks good. It's okay? Okay, great. All right, so I want to go ahead and pull up my thread in that corner. So I just do a single stitch, bring up my bobbin thread. I'm going to hold both in my left hand and drop my needle down. And I will say that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to take some tacking stitches right now. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to go ahead and stitch in the ditch all the way around this block just to stabilize some things so that I don't knock things, out of square as I'm working. Okay, so I'm going to come and hop over until I get to that intersection. So I'm on the seam line. I'm going to move my template, my circle ruler, over and do another hop over. And the thing about rulers is it's going to take a little time, but it's like the best way to get really beautiful quilting without a computer. All right, so I'm going to grab a straight edge ruler because I'm going to sneak up that ditch. Remember, your ditch is your magic superhighway. It's how you travel without having to break your threads. So I'm going to go up here to the next row, and this time I want to do a half of a clamshell. So I'm going to line that east-west on the seam line for that first row that I did, and I'm going to put my north-south on the edge of that seam, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to touch the top of the first row of clamshells that I did. And then I'm going to align my ruler. Now we're going to do a full hop. and then I'm going to go to a half of a hop. And I'm holding the ruler, the circle ruler, with my non-dominant hand, and I'm moving the machine with my dominant hand. Oh, look, okay, all right, so you guys, I made a mistake. Do you see this? Do you see that my hop, I lined up, I was too busy telling you how I'm holding it and not actually paying attention. So I've got these horizontal east-west lines, and do you see that I put this one on not the middle one, but the one up from the middle, so I got a smaller hop. All right, so, you know, if I make a mistake, I'm gonna own up to it. So let's just pretend that never happened. Don't tell anybody. And we'll continue on, and I'll be more careful that when I'm talking, I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna do a hole and a hole. And I do get folks who say, you know, Angela, I like it when you make a mistake because you point it out. You know, it's embarrassing for me because I feel like at this point in life, I shouldn't be making simple mistakes like that. But if I can point them out to you and show you that, you know, it happens to all of us, so I would pick that out. So when you see this when it's finished, you're gonna be like, well, there was this one little clamshell who didn't grow to his fullest potential. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and break my threads here, and let's take a look at what we did. So I would take some tacking stitches there to end in real life. So where's my little, so here's my little clamshell. He's a teenager. He hasn't grown into his full height. So there's my mistake, but you can see how that clamshell looks as a background filler. Now, we did a 2-inch clamshell, well, 4-inch technically, but on a 2-inch grid. You could do any size you want. Just be aware if you start going to like 1/2-inch grids, you're talking about a very small filler. But this is beautiful to use even as an all-over edge to edge. You've got this emptiness, this gap, this space here. So let's look at a way that we might be able to kind of dress that up and play a little bit. So I'm gonna come to this next 8-inch block that we have, and I'm gonna take some tacking stitches. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it some little whiskers. So little cat claws. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, and if you watched our clubhouse meeting where we talked about the kitty cat on the roller coaster, that's our little kitty cat again. And so we didn't do the kitty cat? Oh, we'll have to do the kitty cat later. Okay, we didn't do the kitty cat, but we did the ladybug on the roller coaster. Yes, okay, so there's a whole other one I do where I put a cat on the roller coaster with the ladybug. So here we go, cat whiskers, 1, 2, and the other side, 1, 2, and now we're back to where we started, and we're gonna do another whole clamshell. And now we're gonna do our cat whiskers, 1, 2, and then I'm gonna sneak up. And I'm using Lisa's Pro line. This one is my Pro Mini. I like that one. It's just small and it fits my hands and it makes sense to my brain. So anything that can make sense to my brain, I'm all about it. So now we're gonna do a half. And so now I'm gonna do a kitty cat whisker here. 1, 2, 1, 2. And I'm not gonna get all bunched up about making my cat whiskers all the same. I'm just going to, you know, fill the space. So a full hop over. 1, 2, 1, 2, and now a half. All right, so Olivia and Jesse, how is the, I'm gonna do cat whiskers here. How's the voting going for paper piecing or not? Are we getting anybody saying yes?
Some strong yeses.
A strong yes?
At least one strong no.
One strong no? Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who, as soon as you say the word paper piece, she's like, nope, nope, we're done talking. Nope, nope, nope. And then, of course, you see these glorious, like, giant Judy Niemeyer quilts that are nothing but and they are amazing. I have yet to do one of those, but it's a bucket list quilt for me. I'm going to come down, cat whisker, 1, 2, 1, 2, and again, we're doing this in a 2-inch size. This is quite lovely smaller. So it's one of the interesting things about grids and grid designs is they can really adapt to most any space you want to fill. All right, so again, what I should have done is stitch in the ditch all the way around, but at least I don't have a teenage clamshell. All of my clams are grown-up clams, fill in the space. So let's take a look at how that looks on a quilt. And then, Kelsey, I'm going to bring this sampler in again and show, here it is stitched on this light blue. And that's so that you can see what it looks like with the grid erased, with the chalk grid erased. All right, and so in the newsletter, one of the worksheets that you can download is a grid. And so you can start to use that horizontal grid. You'd use a horizontal grid for clamshells, and you would use that horizontal grid to practice your clamshells. But you are going to need a ruler to do this because the eye sees symmetry really well. And if you try to do those hops by hand, the eye is going to catch right when you kind of fall off the wagon there and don't have a nice symmetrical bunny hop. So play with it and post in the clubhouse, in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse there in our Facebook group. I'd love to see how you incorporate clamshells into your projects. I do want to thank our sponsor, APQS. APQS makes the APQS long arm machines. They're 100% handcrafted there in Iowa and loved the world over. And they come with a lifetime warranty. So if you are interested in an APQS long arm machine, contact your local dealer, your local APQS store. You can also give us a ring. We do sell APQS machines, and we have a road show coming up on August the 14th here at Quilted Joy in Louisville, Kentucky. If you are not close by and you still want to chat about long arm machines, do give me a call, and I'd be happy to walk you through what we have to offer. So thank you, APQS. We love you. All right, I have a looky-loo tour to show you today. It is Janet Selness, and she gave us a look around her studio. So let's take a look. Hi, Janet. Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, now tell me where you're located.
So I am located in Wausau, Wisconsin, which is the central part of the state. So about 2 hours north of Madison.
Perfect. Perfect. I have a good friend who lives in Madison. Every time he puts up photos of where he lives, I always think it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. So thank
It
you.
is gorgeous.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So you are in your studio, which is in your home, is that correct?
It is. It's in the basement of my house. It was one of the bedrooms of the house, and I instantly dibbed it because it was the biggest bedroom other than the master, and said, this is going to be my sewing area.
Fabulous. All right, I can't wait to see it. So if you could turn the camera on, let's see what you got. Wonderful.
Okay, so this is coming into my sewing area.
Yeah.
I do my piecework at my little sewing table with my inspirational reminders or what the pattern is that I'm working on.
Perfect.
I have my Lucy set up here.
And is that a 12-foot frame, a 10-foot frame?
It's a 12-foot frame.
A 12-foot frame. So you have just enough room there to wiggle to the side to get to the back of Lucy.
It is an incentive not to do double helpings of ice cream.
And then you have a big design wall.
I do. And this was a great tip from the person who got me into quilting. It is 2 pieces of insulation from Home Depot that I then put batting on with spray on glue. So if I need to move it, I can, but I haven't had to move it here. It's been perfect. In my closet is where I stow my batting and some other some other materials there for projects. It's a great area where if it gets a little messy, I can just close the door.
Mm.
And then I have obviously my ironing spot with my little corgi puppies area to hang out when I'm
Oh,
sewing.
wait. We gotta see the corgi puppy. Hold on. Hi,
Peanut.
baby. And what is his or her name?
His name is Peanut because when we
Aw.
got him, he had to go to the bathroom about every 10 minutes. So his bladder being the size of a peanut designated what his name was.
He's adorable. So
Yep.
you have all your rulers there. They're both
I do.
piecing and long arm rulers, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yep. I got 2 ruler stands for him, and it was pretty much the only place I could find to store them. So that's where I store those.
Sure.
And
Now you wait, and I have to be nosy. What is the story behind the tree behind that? What is
so
that?
the home that I grew up in had a walnut tree on the property, and it was a place where all of us played as children. My dad, when the tree fell down, cut us slabs
Oh
of the
wow.
tree so that we could have them, and it just reminds me of home and family. So I like to have it around me.
I love that you have put the things that mean a lot to you in your sewing space so you can feel creative and nurtured at the same time.
So these
And
are board games that I played as children. So
oh, fun.
yeah, just kind of nice, like you said, surrounding myself with the fun things. And then my
Yeah.
husband bought me this just as creative inspiration. So, and he never buys me artwork. So whether I liked it or not, it was going in here. But I love
Very nice.
it. So.
And where's your thread?
So this is one of the things I love about my studio is that this room had this long long shelf area built in, and I was able to put all of my thread on my storage there. And I realize it's not as much as many people have. These are all of my pre-wound bobbins.
Oh, you
And
have them in little jars.
yes, and I just love them. It's kind of like little jars of candy, only better.
Right. Yeah. And so you are able there, you've got a big window, you can stand at your long arm
Yep.
machine and see outside and well, tell me what's on the frame because that's what my eye's drawn to next. So what are you quilting on?
So this is a kit that was sold by my local fabric store, and just a shout out to them because the Needle Warehouse in Wausau has the most amazing collection of batiks. Carrie Bender just is incredible for supplying the community. She knew that I was getting really into quilting for the military. So when she saw this kit, she put it together and saved a couple for me, even though I was out of town. So it's a simple little quilt, but it's fun.
And so when you say quilting for the military, what are you talking about?
So our local VFW it struggles.
Yeah.
We're a small community and we don't have the funding that every place has. So I have committed to them that I will do quilts that they can give out either as fundraisers or for the veterans that aren't connected with Quilt of Valor or the other nonprofits that help them. So just giving back to the veterans in the community.
Wonderful. Well, Janet, can you turn the camera around so we can see your smiling face?
Sure.
Well, Janet, I'm curious.
Mhm.
Tell me 3 things that you would recommend to your bestie. They don't have to be quilting related, but they could be.
Well,
What are you into right now?
So 2 of them are going to be quilting related, and one of them, so I love my I am struggling with that word. The
Pre-wound bobbin.
pre-wound bobbins.
Yeah.
So they come in these great little containers, right? And I always was trying to figure out a way to make a craft out of these containers. And then I realized the coolest thing, they are a perfect storage container for your used rotary blades.
Oh, yeah, they're the right size.
Exactly the right size. So I can put my old blades in here, safely put the lid on it, and then when it's full and I go to put it in the garbage, no one's going to be at risk of getting cut.
Very nice.
I love this. I love reusing things, repurposing them,
Uh-huh.
and it just makes me feel better.
All right, awesome. What's your next one?
So the next one was a tip that I got on the APQS website on the Facebook page. Now, I joined that group hoping for inspiration of things to do, stitch work and everything. And what I have found is a community of people that are so supportive of everything, but also sharing the different tips and tricks. And what I loved was with my thread, you know how it's so easy to have all of those tails that just kind of get messy and hang there, and
Right.
I just don't like that lack of being tidy. What I didn't know is the bottom of the thread actually pops down,
Yeah.
and you can wind the thread around it and pop it closed, and it's all nice and tidy if I wasn't trying to
Right.
do
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like this.
Right. Yeah.
I love that tip, but I love that it came from the community of quilters.
Yeah. Quilters are the best people on the planet. They always want to help each other.
They are. And when we were sewing masks and everybody was all coming together like that, it was so incredible. And I love being a part of this community. But my
Okay.
favorite one,
Yeah.
just get a
It's
corgi
Peanut.
puppy. The corgi puppies with their little butts when they go to fetch, and no matter how bad of a day I'm having, this little guy makes me laugh and smile. And it's really about finding the thing that's going to make you laugh, because we all have hard times and bad times and sad times. Find
Yeah.
where your laughter is and where your love lives, and just hold on to it.
Yeah. And even if you don't have a corgi of your own, you can find them on YouTube running away from you, and they're just as adorable.
Okay, and that is seriously why I got him, because I was in a sad spot after my father passed away last year, and I saw a corgi video and I started laughing, and my husband's like, you're laughing. And literally 3 days later, we had a corgi puppy.
Oh boy, because I watch a lot of chicken videos, so I don't know if that means I'm gonna go home and find chickens or not, because chickens are what make me laugh too. So. Well, thank you so much, Janet, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I love seeing her in your studio. You know, everybody has this idea that you have to have like all this space or like this massive, outbuilding, which is fabulous if you can do that, but you can also make it work in a spare bedroom too. So, all right.
Absolutely.
So we'll see you around the clubhouse. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
There's so much I love about her space, but one of the things that I really love is that she paid attention to what made her smile. She paid attention to what made her heart happy. And whether that was Peanut or the wood from her childhood home on her wall, whatever it was that made her heart sing, she put it in her creative space. So thank you so much, Janet, for letting us in. And thank you, Peanut. I couldn't figure out when I was talking to her, because of course we had recorded that a while back, and I kept hearing like this squeaky clown car sound. I didn't know what it was until finally she was like, oh, that's my dog. And then she showed the dog. I was like, oh my gosh, what an adorable puppy. So somebody asked how she attached her design wall, her design board to the wall. And I'm not sure how Janet did it, but I just want to share how I do it. So I take that foam insulation board. It's the same stuff that you would see on the side of a house. And I've done this in 2 houses so far. One side is printed, and generally it's printed with a giant pink panther. Make sure that's against the wall, because if it's facing toward you when you put it to the wall, no matter what fabric you put on top of the pink panther, he will always be looking at you. He will always come through the fabric. So put any printed side against the wall. And then as far as how to actually attach it to the wall, what I do is I use a big washer and a screw, and the washer kind of prevents the foam insulation board from getting too compressed. And then I just screw those boards to the wall. And then I'll go ahead and put the flannel or whatever it is that you're covering your design wall with over that. I've also been known to go ahead and cover it first, like with a spray-based kind of thing, and put the flannel on top of it, and then take these and go through the flannel. It's just that then, you see these on the outside, but, it's just you, and it's a design wall, so who really cares? And then we did have another question come through about the clamshells, and do I always stitch clamshells from the bottom up? And the answer is yes, because you want to be sure when your clamshell kind of comes over, it does kiss the top of the head of the one below it, and it's just a little easier to make sure it does that. If you have to dip down a little further than maybe you intended to do so, it's just a little easier to do that when building it from the bottom up. So did we have any other questions that came through, Jesse or Olivia? So of course, if you have a question, go ahead and put it there in the chat. We're on like a 30-second delay, so I don't always see them right when you post them, or I've already gone forward when you post it. So I will double back though. So put a question in there if you have one. All right, so we did get some new arrivals in the shop that I want to share with you. So we've been talking about some kinds of rulers and templates that will help you. If you have a stand-up machine, you need what's called a long arm ruler, and those rulers are 1/4 inch tall. So they are made specifically to go against your hopping foot, so that when your hopping foot hops, it doesn't hop over and crunch the ruler. If you are on a domestic machine, a sit-down machine, it depends on whether your machine is a high shank or a low shank machine as to which kind of ruler you need. So if you have a high shank machine, and I would recommend that you contact your manufacturer or your dealer, they'll be able to tell you right away. If you have a high shank machine, then you can use the rulers that you would use with a stand-up machine, with a long arm machine. If you have a low shank machine, then you need to purchase special rulers that are thinner than what you could use on a stand-up machine, on a domestic machine. And so we have we got in some low shank rulers. These are made by Angela Walters. They're Creative Grids rulers, and these are all different shapes. They're perfect. Do you recognize the clamshell? These are all perfect for a sit-down domestic machine. We also have these in the tall version. So if you have a high shank machine or you have a stand-up machine, we have these very same rulers in the thicker category, in the long arm quilting ruler category. Notice that this one, the Shelly, it has both the inside and the outside, so you can use both sides and get the same arc for that clamshell. And I wanted to show you this one because I hadn't really explored this one very much. This is Sid, so get it, stitch in the ditch, Sid. And again, this is the low shank, but we do have it for the tall, for the high shank, and for the long arm machines. And we had a customer in here this week. She was renting. And do you see that cutout? Kelsey, would it be easier to put it down here? Yeah, you can see it. So what we did is we put the hopping foot inside this negative space, and it was so easy for her to do straight lines and stitch in the ditch because she wasn't she was brand new at using rulers, and she wasn't trying to hold the ruler and use the machine to go against the ruler and go down the edge of the ruler. There wasn't as much going on. So if you're brand new to using rulers, I think this would be a good one to start with because it'll get you straight lines pretty easily. Just make sure you get either the high shank one or the low shank one, depending on the machine you're using. Were there any other questions that came through?
I have one. She's wanting to know if there is lighting to add to the machines just to get more visibility.
Is there lighting to add to the machine? So it of course depends on the brand machine that you have. The APQS machines that were made after 2019 come included with a throat light, but I have seen lots of folks with machines that did not come with a light in the throat add them through LED lights, almost like under cabinet lighting. I see people get them at IKEA and mount them with that sticky foam tape into the throat of the machine to give themselves some good visibility there in the throat of the machine. For domestic machines, there's a number of aftermarket things you can add. I just like to get, I have a floor light that is LED, and I just position it so I get some really good visibility in the throat of my machine when I'm using the machine that doesn't have good light. The machine now that I piece with is a Pfaff, and it has loads of great light in the throat, so I don't have to worry about it with my new Pfaff. Any other questions? All right, so in the, let's see. Oh, I did want to ask. So, Google is changing a lot of things, and they are changing the algorithm for a lot of things. And if you would leave us a review on Google. It helps the Google machine serve us up to other folks, and it's probably one of the best compliments that you can give us if you find this to be helpful to you, is to leave us a review, because that allows other folks to find us more easily. Of course, the biggest compliment would be if you would share it with a friend that you think that would find all this information helpful. So if you head over to Google, you can leave us a review, and I appreciate your time for doing so. So over in our Facebook group, at the Quilted Joy Clubhouse Facebook group, each month I ask folks to submit a photo of an unquilted quilt top, and then I select one to show how I would quilt it if it were my quilt, and to show you how I break down a quilt so that you can kind of get into my brain, which might be scary at times, but kind of see how my thought process, and see how you might, meld that into your thought process. So this month, I have chosen Joy's quilt. So Joy, thank you so much for submitting this unquilted quilt top, so that I can draw on it and kind of show you what I'm thinking of. So Joy, when I saw your quilt, the first thing I wanted to do was kind of create bones, kind of create some structure to it, because what jumped out at me, and let me zoom in here so that you can see. Is that better, Kelsey? Yeah. Okay, so what jumped out at me is, hold on. Sorry, I'm using a free program. It is called GIMP, G-I-M-P, and it allows me to draw on photos. So I have a bunch of layers here lined up for you, and I just turned on the wrong one. So this is what jumped out at me, Joy, was this block here. So I know that you put this together in a horizontal setting, but when I looked at it, I thought these were a pretty cool way to break down the bones, the structure of the quilt. And so when I saw this, I know that what happens is it goes out into, kind of bleeds out into the border area, and I kind of like it. So I went through, and that's the first thing that I did, was add these bones to your blocks. And then of course that created some negative space here between your stars. And then what jumped out at me was, if I were to carve out, there's a block here, there's a square here I could carve out. Again, I would need a ruler for this, but I could carve out a block, a square inside. And really, I think that when in the quilting, if I can add to the voice of the quilt, that's where I get excited. So inside these blocks that I've created, you have a lot of star fabric going on, and you have a lot of the centennial fabric going on. And so inside these blocks, what I would like to see would be a 5-point star. And you can actually print out, I'm going to do this freehand, so it's going to be like a starfish instead of a star, but you can print out a 5-point star off the internet, and then transfer that to like wax paper, and then iron that onto your quilt, or mark it and go around that to get a 5-point star that looks like a 5-point star and not like a starfish. But that's what I would do in these spaces, is I would bring out the flavor of your fabrics by including that 5-point star in all of these inset squares. Now, I haven't yet started to think about the whether I'm going to do this as one continuous path, or where I can actually get away with that. I haven't yet thought about that yet. I'm really just kind of looking at the structure and the bones currently. So once I had that kind of inset star, I wanted to kind of bring out those, it's like it's created a sashing. And so I went ahead and added a frame around each of your stars. And I want you to notice that what I've done is kind of create a little magic portal. I talk about my little magic portals, my little places where I can sneak in and out. So let's look at that. I'm going to change to obnoxious color. I don't know, how about hot purple? So I want you to look. Here is a place where I could jump over into your red 9-patch variation. Another magic portal is here where I could jump into your stars. So I'm always kind of, when I touch, when my lines or quilting touches a door, I want to know, here's one, where I can jump into other sections and jump back out, and that will give me my continuous path when I'm ready to start thinking about that. All right, so let's take a look at all of that. So here's my bones. I think I'm going to zoom out a little bit, Kelsey, and hopefully that will allow people to see. And if you have any questions about this thought process, just let me know. So there's my bones. There's my inner blocks that we talked about, Joy. And there's those I've created sashing basically with those inner blocks. And then there's those stars that I wouldn't do freehand. I would definitely use something that would make them not look like starfish, but look like stars. All right, so then I started to turn my attention to these modified 9-patch blocks here. And I'm gonna zoom in just so that you can kind of see what I was looking at. So another part that I noticed of the fabric that you used, the focal fabric that you used, and it's right here, is I found hearts in there. And so sometimes if you can pull out the motif of the fabric that you're using, it will help, bring a unified voice to your quilt. And so what I discovered here is if I could actually go in, let me make sure I've got, where am I? I am at hearts, okay. There. All right, so I'm gonna go in, and I thought if I put, I still have my purple. Oh well, you can see it, right, Kelsey? Okay, so if I put hearts in these sections, it's like it is just the right proportion for hearts, that unit that you have there. So I liked that, and then I also thought, well, what am I going to do like inside this 9-patch? And so I was working with clamshells, and I thought, well, if I do a clamshell this way, and then I'm just going to do 1/2 of like a pumpkin seed here, because I'm going to do this in 2 passes. You're going to see how I create the inside of this block in 2 passes. There's another one. Again, 1/2 of a pumpkin seed, clamshell, 1/2 of a pumpkin seed, clamshell, 1/2 of a pumpkin seed, and now I'm going to go back with a second pass, and I'm going to do 1/2 of a clamshell. So it's that clamshell design, there's my 1/2, that creates a pumpkin seed. So pumpkin seeds and clamshells are they're like second cousins. They're very close in design. There's the other 1/2 of my pumpkin seed. And that gets me this frame around. And then for the inside of this star fabric, there's a lot going on here, Joy, so I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time and effort inside here. What I think would be nice would be to repeat that 5-point star in here. And because it's repeated, you'll see it more easily, even though it is a busy fabric. All right, so that's what I was thinking for this part. So I'm gonna turn that on so that you can see those orange peels, and let me zoom out. All right, so that's where we're at so far, Joy. And so then I started looking at your stars, and what could I do with those stars? And what I thought was I just need to kind of bring out the movement of those stars. So it's a friendship star, but it's a modified friendship star, and I don't have the name. If you know the name of this particular block, put it there in the comments, because it's escaping my brain currently. But it's a friendship star with a second one behind it. So, so we talked about these magic portals, right? And so what I can do here, Joy, is hop into your star, and I'm just gonna put a little angle like that, and then I'm gonna hop into this one and come down the ditch. So I'm going to go into this star point. I'm going to hop into this one and come down the ditch. This point, I'm going to hop into this one and come down the ditch. And this one, I'm I'm gonna hop into this one and come down the ditch, and then I would actually go around a second time to frame that out. And then as far as the inside of these, I would kind of look at each of these. Like this one is obvious, I would probably just go around that heart. Things like this one, I might just do a heart on top of it, but I'm wanting to pull in the stars and the hearts together. So repeating those hearts in these star blocks is going to be helpful. All right, so let's take a look at that, Joy. So there's where I'm at as far as your stars go. And then I turn my attention to this border design. Now the border is a little challenging because I want you to see the math of the quilt and why it's challenging. So if you take a look, this section here, let me turn that on. This section here is wider than this section here. So the math changes, and I know why you had to do that. It's because this border is really hard. The math is strict and it's really hard, so you had to put a coping strip in that was different for the horizontal from the vertical. So I totally get that. It does make it a little more challenging to quilt just because the math is different on the horizontal versus the vertical borders. But you probably figured that out when you were piecing it, I'm guessing. So what I thought about doing was really taking advantage, though, of these blocks. Can you see that okay, Kelsey, or should I change the color? All right, let me zoom in. And I thought if these blocks, if I could break these blocks out and then even break out these frames. And basically extend that border into the main body of the quilt, I think that would be pretty amazing. So let me show you how I did that. And I'm going to zoom out so you can see there, Joy. Okay, so by extending those boxes out, I've kind of created a new pieced frame from the quilting. And then to put inside those boxes, I'm going to go back to my 5-point star and repeat that in these outside boxes. Again, using a template, not freehand, or it gets kind of funky, and put stars in all of those boxes. So let's take a look at all those stars in the boxes. So framing out your quilt, going along with the theme of the fabric, all that's working for me. And so then my last thing was trying to figure out how to kind of fill in this negative space, because the challenge with these kinds of quilts is that you've got a different negative space in this area. Let me turn that on. In this area, right, versus this area down here. So that's the challenge of these. So what I decided to do, I needed something, because the math is different on your horizontal versus your vertical, is I just went in, I'm going to change my color, Kelsey, back to that blue, and thought, well, if I can just add curls here, it'll give me some movement off that star, but it'll also give me the freedom to fill in this space organically, so that as it changes, as I flow through the quilt, it will still allow me to fill the space and adapt. And of course, we've been talking about those magic portals, so that's where I would dip in to do those curls. All right, so let's take a look at how that works. And I'm going to zoom out. All right, Joy, what do you think? So the last thing we have to talk about is that very outside border of your quilt. I think that the quilt has some really nice structure now. It's very alive, has a lot of movement, and I like the curls. The curls kind of spin those stars. But what I'd like to do is kind of focus in on this negative space here. And so we've used stars, and I want to go back to your hearts that you had in your focal fabric. And so I just thought, if I can do, let's see, I need to turn that on. If I can do this one. If I can do a curled heart, so there's a curl down to that point, and there's a curl I can put a heart in each of this space that calls out to not only the hearts in your focal fabric and the hearts that I put in those modified 9 patches, but also the curls that I added coming off of those friendship stars. Did anybody chime in as to what that block is called?
I heard spinning stars.
Spinning stars? Anybody else have an opinion? Of course, everything has like multiple names, right? So I would go through and put hearts in all these. And then the only other thing is this corner. I would actually come in from the corner and do a heart in this direction. And then if you thought it needed some assistance here, you could put little curled hearts mounted to the top of each of those little places, Joy. It's hard for me to tell scale if that would be needed or not. All right, Joy, so here is what I have for your quilt. Now, Joy, you quilt your quilt any way you want to quilt your quilt, but that's how I would quilt it if it were my quilt, Joy. And I really thank you for posting that online, and however you choose to quilt your quilt, I hope that you post a photo of it there in the clubhouse so we can all cheer you on and see what you decided. So if you're not over joining us in the Quilt Joy Clubhouse, I encourage you to. It's full of the nicest, sweetest, kindest quilters around. Lots of cheerleading, lots of support, lots of photos of beautifully quilted quilts. So join us over there. All right, so speaking of which, we do have folks who do post their completed quilts. And so here are just a few that we have had over the last month in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse on Facebook. So Deborah posted this photo. This was an antique quilt. I think she said her mom. It was one from her mother, and she said this just means so much to her to finally be able to finish it. And you added some really beautiful texture and structure there, Deborah. Good job. And Patty, she was showing us what her ladybug and how she used a grid. So I want you to notice that she has a grid marked, you know, with oh no, she used an Oliver edge to edge. It just gives the illusion of that she used a grid. So yeah, so she used a. It looks like. It might be squared spiral. A variation of it that gives you that grid look. Good job, Patty. And then Barbara was talking about all of the masks that she's made since COVID, and so she made a quilt to kind of commemorate all of those masks that she's done over the year. And Barbara posted this. Isn't this glorious? This one, she said her ladybug had a whole lot of fun hopping around. So in that inset photo, you can see where she's used she used a grid design. That ladybug that we've been talking about all year long, and how it hopped to and fro in her mountains. They're really beautiful, Barbara. I love the colors you chose. And Rachel posted this one. It was so big she couldn't get a whole photo of it in one piece. She posted it in 2 pieces. But it's a sampler quilt, and sampler quilts can be difficult because each of those blocks, you may want to treat them individually. So she showed how she used our ladybug and our grid to quilt one of those blocks, and has loads more photos there on the Quilted Joy Clubhouse. So I encourage you to go take a look at what Rachel did. Good job, Rachel. And then Cheryl posted this one. Isn't this pretty? And this is one of those Laura Heine collage quilts, and that one is called Hip Hop. You know, Cheryl, he can be challenging because if you don't have the right contrast between your fabrics, his paw there at his body gets lost, and his haunch gets lost, and his ears become like one ear. You did such a good job, Cheryl. I see his jaw, I see 2 ears, I see the haunch. You just did a lovely job. And don't you love all the little delicate butterflies floating around him? With just simple straight line piecing or straight line quilting. Great job, Cheryl. Kim, you are impressing the heck out of me. Kim likes rulers, can you tell? So Kim, I want you to notice how she used outlines to kind of divide up the space and create an inset frame around this Lemoyne star in the middle, and then filled it in just with simple straight lines. So effective, Kim. You did just a great job, and pay attention to how she did this outside border as well, because it's not just straight lines. She's actually doing a chevron in that outside border. So good job, Kim. I'm impressed. And Donna, holy cow. So have you guys played with one of these yet? These are the Dream Big panels, and each petal, you can do some free motion play inside of each of the petals, and it just is, it's a glorious way to kind of dress up this, this panel. And she used 2 layers of batting so that it had a kind of a sculptured look. And then notice how each of the petals, she again did that outline stitch to kind of define them and to give a kind of a visual gap between what she's filling the petal with and the other petals around it. Just a beautiful job, Donna. And I see grids. Do you see grids? I see loads of grids. This one I've seen in a number of different ways, and grids are always a part of the plan. So beautiful job, Donna. Tammy, love this. Tammy used some ruler work and chevrons and then filled it with some free motion designs there in the middle of those chevrons and really brought that quilt to life. Anytime that you can kind of pull these curls out from the center of the star, you'll add a lot of movement. Beautiful job, Tammy. And Angela, gorgeous. I love these quilts that are kind of like with an offset star like that. So really beautiful color palette too. But Angela went crazy with her feathers. Look at all those feathers all over, and she's got other photos there in the clubhouse of her beautiful feathers. So good job, Angela. So if you have a quilt that you've been working on that you finished, I would love to see it. You know, I am inherently nosy, so seeing what you're working on is always fun, and we love to see it. So visit us over in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse, and we'd love to see what you're working on. So next month, we are going to meet on September the 1st at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and we're going to be talking about clamshells part 2, because clamshells are one of those designs you're going to get a lot of use out of. So we're going to take it up a notch with clamshells part 2. So do join us on social media. Follow us over on Facebook, so you can follow the Quilted Joy Facebook page. We're also over on Instagram. If you were on Instagram this week, you saw my daughter started medical school. So she had her white coat ceremony on Friday. We were all there cheering her on. This is day 3. So last night after day 2, I asked her how it was going, and she said it was like taking a drink from a fire hose. So that sounds about right for medical school, right? They're doing anatomy right now. And then we are on YouTube. You can find all of the past episodes of Quilted Joy Clubhouse there on YouTube if you want to rewatch and go back for the Year of the Grid and take a look at other grids. But otherwise, we will see you on Wednesday, September the 1st. Bye, you guys.